Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, joined once more by Tate, and bringing back Tom Woods to the channel for another video. This is another entry of the Untitled Monthly Movie Show, the mouthful title that we're still figuring out. That's the video where we go live once a month to talk about everything we've watched in the last month, talk about big stories, events, whatever's been happening. It's a very chilled out live stream chat. And as you can tell with the way Tate is sitting, Tate, I know you're not back in England, but how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm still here in Austria. I've moved off mountain now. I'm in my final few days before I head back to England. So the next Cinema Savvy video, I will probably be back in England. Sadly, I'm going to be missing out on Star Wars Celebration, but I've got work and I've got a very important exam coming up. So I have to do that. And then I will be back at least to get the tail end stuff from Star Wars Celebration. And I'll be watching everything, like all the panels or as many of the panels as I can, out here in Austria.
Lovely. And Tom, how are we doing as well?
Yeah, not too bad. Although I've just come off the back, or I'm still coming off the back of being ill the past few days. So apologies if I sound a bit nasally or cough loads during this.
It's all right. We've got you covered. It's fine. And kind of with that in mind, as I said, we're going to go through the films we've watched. But first, we want to hear from people that might be watching. Do comment with what you've watched this month. And given that this is a chilled out stream, do let us know anything you want us to talk about that's happened in the month of film. We had the Oscars was this month. Bloody hell, that feels like
it was.
Ago.
Did you? Oh yeah, did you do your little
we did
game thing for it?
Yeah.
So I didn't tune in for it.
I didn't expect to tune in. It was like 4 hours. But luckily, the American clocks changed that day, and ours hadn't, so it was an hour earlier than it normally is. So that was like one great blessing from that night. And I stupidly bought a month of Sky Movies because I hadn't set up the arts channel, which was free. So I felt like a right old moron after doing that. But yeah, people at home. We'll keep going. Tom.
What did you do your little competition thing as well? Because
we did. You didn't win.
I didn't win. No.
Sorry, not to put it as blunt as that. Tate won.
I won.
That's fine.
Very quick. I was going to say, very quick question. Did anyone who submitted in things get a higher score than anyone on the stream? Because I know we had pretty high scores on the night.
I think it was you and Dave were the top two out of the top three. I think someone that sent in might have been Jed. Someone that sent in was fairly close. But God,
I only asked it that way because I wanted you to say like, "Oh, you've won," but no.
It's like I just didn't bother telling him. It's like maybe you'd win. I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll tell you if he tunes in. Watch this 4-hour stream to find out the 10 seconds if you want to be joking." I wouldn't do that. I'm not that pathetic. But people at home, maybe let us know some of your thoughts on the Oscars or how it went, whatnot. We won't be talking about them until probably the festival circuit at the end of this year. I know Cannes is getting some big names this year. We've just had the Killers of the Flower Moon confirmed and a 4-hour runtime, which is great. That's not on April Fool's. That's a 4-hour runtime. But yeah, also, if you want to find out about other videos, at the moment it's all a bit Star Wars. Go get some social media, Twitter and Instagram at cinema_savvy, Facebook, letterboxd.com/cinemasavvy. Link to Redbubble in that description below. And it feels, I'm going to say this, it feels weird talking not Star Wars at the moment because there's such an insane Star Wars hype for Celebration. We've had Mandalorian, we've had Bad Batch, we've got streams every week. It's really not weird, but it's nice to go back to normal films. And luckily, I've not just watched Star Wars films the entirety of March. I've watched a lot more films than I did in February, got some things back on track, and I watched a couple of TV shows, which caught me off guard as well. But Tate, do you want to go through all yours first? Have you got the list?
Yeah, sure. I do have the list. I also managed to get the Letterboxd mobile app just to keep better track of my things and stuff like that. I find the app awful. I think it's absolutely horrible to be able to put films in. There's so many different buttons you have to click to be able to add films to your list and stuff like that. But at least
really?
I was able
do you not just log it on the diary?
Well, no, I don't log it on the diary, and I just do it through the lists.
That would help. That would help. If you just logged it on the diary, that would like make your day a million times quicker. It's like 10 seconds.
It probably would, but I like doing the complicated method of putting down things into various different lists. Anyway, I started my month. I was meant to be watching through the Oscar films I missed off, and instead I won't end up watching Jackass 4.5. because I hadn't seen Jackass 4.5. I'd seen Jackass 4, but I hadn't seen the 4.5 yet, and I saw it was on Netflix. I was like, yeah, sure, I'll watch that. Bit of lighthearted fun. Then I went and watched Living, which was an Oscar-nominated film, and dear God, Bill Nye, fantastic, really lovely film, really, really lovely film. I think it should have been nominated for more. I thought it was very kind of heartwarming and very well filmed. I know it's a remake, but I really, really enjoyed it across the entire board. I then ended up watching probably my favorite film of the month, as far as watching a new film, and that was, well, they say Athena, but Athena, which is a French language film. A lot of the shots are filmed as if it's one shot, and it's all about a siege on a kind of tower block / small little residence after someone from the tower block gets killed by a police member, and it was fantastic. Some of the best cinematography I've seen of the entire year, and I would highly recommend it if people have an hour and a half of their time free for what I would say is probably a film where it doesn't have the martial arts of The Raid, but it definitely has the tension of the Raid films and the very, very similar kind of camera style and filming style. Really fantastic. Would highly recommend anyone to go and watch that. It's on Netflix as well. So please go do watch that. I then ended up watching, sorry, this is such massive tonal whiplash, Blazing Saddles. Just because I hadn't seen it in a while, and I just wanted something lighthearted as a rewatch and stuff like that. Then ended up watching Nope because I hadn't seen it from last year, and it's a lot of catch-up films from last year that I'm going through, kind of films which I've had on my list for years of things to watch and stuff like that, and I've just never got round to it. And Nope was the one from last year that I was like, wow, I can't believe I haven't seen this yet. I should probably go. Then we hit Oscars night. After Oscars night, of course, Everything Everywhere All at Once won. So I do my yearly tradition of watching the Best Picture winner the day after and see whether it holds up, see whether it won the awards that it should have done. And I know we weren't going to talk specifically about Oscars and stuff like that. I agree with every single award it won, apart from Jamie Lee Curtis's award. And it's a shame to say because she is a fantastic actress. But on rewatch, she was, from the performances I've seen so far from all of the leading actress kind of nominees, she was the weakest. And I think there was a lot of kind of comments about it on the night and stuff like that. But really from rewatching it, her performance is not worthy of a Best Supporting Actress winning performance.
Not even nomination.
But the film, I don't even think nomination as well. I think you're right in that. But apart from that, I really enjoyed watching the film again. Then I watched Cocaine Bear.
It's quite a large array of sort of tonal whiplash films.
It's all over the place. It's going to get even worse in a minute. I just watched Cocaine Bear.
Great.
Just
95 minutes.
Oh, God, it's just fantastic, isn't it? It's just bonkers.
Perfect.
It's stupid.
It's what the 95-minute film needs to be.
It absolutely needs to be like that. So I followed up Cocaine Bear with Green Room because I wanted something kind of, another whiplash thing. I wanted something dark and twisted, and I hadn't seen it yet, and it's been on my list for years. So after watching a dark, twisted film like Green Room, which has Sir Patrick Stewart playing a neo-Nazi, I ended up watching Strange World because once again I needed, I wanted to watch something animated. I'd heard various different things about it from last year, and yeah, it was just on my list. Ended up watching it. It's okay. It's nothing special. Yeah. Like it's not ridiculously good. It's not ridiculously bad. I guessed the plot twist pretty much straight away. It was very easy to get from almost the off. So whatever. Then I ended up watching Chinatown for the first time. I'd never seen Chinatown before, and yeah, I can understand completely why it's a classic. When was the last time? Have you both watched Chinatown before?
I've still not seen it. It's on the list still.
I've watched the first 10 minutes and then thought I really don't have time for this. Not that I won't enjoy it, but
yeah, it's worth it. It's worth it. I really enjoyed it. All the performances are great. It actually still holds up quite well. As just kind of a simple murder mystery and stuff like that. Then once again, from the catch-up of films from last year, I watched The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. which
you?
is
You saw the meme,
bonkers.
the meme that's now everywhere.
Yeah. I think that may have been
How-
actually the only reason why I watched the film. Just because I was like, I need to see what the context of the scene is. But no, apart from Nick Cage making out with Nick Cage, this just bonkers film, isn't it?
I thought it was
What
crazy.
exactly is it about? Because
If you
So
haven't watched it. and I
I'll
have
try and
no
I'll try and
idea
explain it. I'll try and explain it. So Nick Cage is, trying to get a new role because he hasn't had new roles in a while. He's thinking of retiring from acting. He's also talking to a version of himself when he was popular in the 90s, who at some point in the film makes out with himself. And the entire plot basically revolves around the idea of Nick Cage having to do a birthday party gig for some rich person in Spain to try and get his career back on track. But it ends up being like somewhere between a kidnapping heist movie, kind of like he kind of replicates a lot of the things from his previous action films. It's very John Malkovich whilst, or being John Malkovich whilst also being, an action film. It's like, Arnie's Last Action Hero as to his career, being John Malkovich's career. This is Nick Cage's kind of, self-indulged universe imploding in on itself. It's brilliant.
It's crazy that I think it came out a couple months ago that originally Nick Cage wasn't even cast as the lead, and it was still going to be about Nick
Really?
Cage, but they've been talking to other actors. But that was a proper. I don't want to say a gem because everyone heard of it, but that's a film film people knew about that last year. I think trying to sell that to let's say my dad, right? Because my dad has become a massive Pedro Pascal stan. Honestly, he fucking loves him, and you can tell my dad watches The Mandalorian and The Last of Us. And I was like, you'd really like this film called Unbearable Weight Massive. Because he's like, I haven't seen Pedro Pascal in many films. Like, to be fair, he's mainly done TV. Most people will know film-wise as Kingsman and Unbearable. And I said to my dad, and that, he's like, I don't really have time to watch TV. I was like, yeah, I know. And I was like, you watch this Nicolas Cage film? And he's like, I'm not sure about Nick Cage. And I was like, he's playing a fictional version of himself. And he's like, yeah, I don't know if that's for me. But it's so good. And again, I think Pedro, obviously, The Last of Us is going to have a season 2. And obviously he's busy on Mandalorian, but I think when he's on the download TV, he'll become a massive film star as well. I think it's inevitable.
I think so as well. And he puts in a fantastic performance in there. I then ended up, because last month I watched Scream, so I moved on to Scream 2. I'm not sure if I'm going to continue or not. I do like the franchise. I think it's very interesting and fun. But I hear it's all down here from Scream 2.
No.
So
No way.
Is it not?
I haven't seen the
I've not
latest
seen
one.
them.
They're all fantastic. I mean, the third one is probably the weakest of the four that I've seen, but
yeah,
they're all fucking really good.
Okay, I will continue on. I'll be seeing more of it. Then I watched The Place Beyond the Pines.
Ooh,
yeah.
Ben
First
Mendelsohn.
time watching that as well. Yeah, Ben Mendelsohn. Just what a fantastic cast. How did it not get nominated for more things? Is my question. When it came out,
I can't even being nominated. I can't remember it being nominated for anything. It's like what 2013.
Yeah, around then.
I remember it at college. It was one of them it's an edgy Ryan Gosling film, and everyone thought it was going to be like Drive, but it wasn't. But I remember really liking it.
It's still a good film. I still really enjoyed it. And then to finish off the month, I didn't have work for a week. I did an awful lot of sports and stuff like that, just kind of keep myself tying over. And throughout the entire season, one of the people I've been working with has been going on and on and on about their favorite film franchise. So I finally decided to give it a proper full rewatch. So I watched all of the Hunger Games films. I know the new film's going to be coming out this year. I know that that they've released the poster, but they haven't released the trailer yet. That's going to be coming soon. So I thought I'd get ahead of the game and just have a bit more context going into it when I do eventually watch the film. And do you know what? I mean, I remember being quite harsh on the latter two films and thinking the first two films were quite good. I think the series as a whole is actually pretty good. I think it holds up pretty well. It hasn't aged poorly or anything like that. It's still got quite a relevant message and everything like that. The acting is really good. It's got a very good cast. Yeah, overall pretty good. And it's been a while since I've rewatched it since Mockingjay Part 2 came out. So yeah, looking forward to the next film.
I think that's a good point, because I always found those get sort of lumped in with the sort of Twilight opinion of, oh god, here we go, and all those other knockoffs like Maze Runner and whatever. And
But the thing is, I quite like the Maze Runner franchise. I think Maze Runner franchise holds up okay as well. Like the first two films are fantastic, and the third film had massive issues on set with, cast members being mutilated and production being delayed and stuff like that.
hell.
Did they cancel the last one of that?
No, they
is that
did
the series
release
that
it.
didn't finish?
They did release it. They did release
Okay.
it. Like, I don't
What's the
think
other
they
one?
put it
There's
out in cinemas.
another. There's another like young adult
Divergent
franchise.
didn't
Yeah,
finish?
Divergent.
Divergent never
Yes.
finished.
They just didn't bother doing the last one.
Well, it wasn't that good.
Shailene Woodley just wasn't that popular anymore. I don't think it depends on the actors and actresses kind of involved and stuff like that. Whereas you look at Hunger Games and you look at Jennifer Lawrence, and since being in the Hunger Games, she's been Oscar nominated. I mean, she was Oscar nominated whilst doing the Hunger Games and stuff like that and before then, she's a fantastic actress and holds stern with the franchise. You've also got Philip Seymour Hoffman in there. I didn't even remember that Mahershala Ali was popped up for the final two films and stuff like that. You've got people dotted throughout the franchise who put on such stellar performances, and it feels like their casting's gone fantastic. And then just remembering the first film, you got Huey from The Boys, you got Jack Quaid showing up and stuff like that as a young actor. So it really has held up, and I know a lot of people online are saying if there's any young adult kind of films that have held strong over the years, it would be the Harry Potter films and it would be the Hunger Games films for those kind of age groups and stuff like that. And I completely agree with them. I think those two are pretty much up and above all of the others.
I mean, it's kind of you're in two minds whether to like Harry Potter now.
Well, no, it's more of like enjoying.
You
can enjoy Harry Potter. You can hate J.K. Rowling.
Yeah, that's what I am. And also, if anyone wants to get J.K. Rowling stuff, her company's is on the news today. Like their profits are 75% down for her production company. But the Harry Potter thing. I mean, listen. Yesterday was Trans Visibility Awareness Day, and Daniel Radcliffe did a roundtable. And the one thing I'll certainly say the Harry Potter stuff against the politics of it all is. You look at, I don't count Hunger Games in this respect because they were all a bit old. They're all in their 20s, right? Yeah. But you look at all those young American actors, child actors, look at whose careers turned out all right. Look at the issues that, I'm not going to name names for their own fairness, but look at the issues young American actors tend to have on big films. Then you look at the Harry Potter cast where they did 8 films in 10 years and they all came out all right, bar Crab, who got done for selling weed and doing the London riots. But if you think about the scale of how many students there were, and you would say that's quote unquote the worst thing to happen, it's the Harry Potter stuff. There's definitely the right debate to have around it because I'm not. Obviously, everyone's flying into London for celebration. And if I was being honest, obviously I haven't said it to anyone. But if everyone's like recommend me something, I tell all of them a Harry Potter student tour, but I know I can't because that you don't want to say the wrong thing to someone if it affects them. And it's a very interesting, but for me at least, I'm not going to use that awful. What's that shit term people use? Separate the arts from the whatever the politics is. Yeah. I hate stuff like that because it's irrelevant. It's a case by case thing. But Harry Potter's frustrating because you look at I mean for me at least, okay, I'm white, straight, not trans. I'm not the opposite of these discussions, so I'm pretty comfortable in how I speak. But for me, obviously, I was disappointed what's happened to the author, who I respected a lot. And for me, reading those books was great when I was younger because it taught me a lot about not right and wrong. But and then you meet other people from different backgrounds. It's like, at school I was called Cho Chang because I was Asian, and it's like, and then you've got the Patel twins, and I saw a joke on Twitter. Yes, do you know the Willem Dafoe looking up meme?
Yeah. The one was Tom,
you'd have seen it. Willem Dafoe's looking up.
Right.
The joke had read, and it's like, thank God J.K. Rowling's finished. She was on the verge of creating her first Japanese character, Hiroshima. And they were making the comment that almost every sort of I think even like Jewish characters have stereotypical Jewish names as well in Harry Potter, and there's it's quite eye-opening when you hear other perspectives, but certainly for me, I've got no shame in watching those films. I think it's some of the best British cinema's had to offer the world outside of James Bond, if I'm being honest, franchise-wise.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely support the artist behind it, but I mean, all you have to do is just look at who J.K. Rowling hangs out with, and it's
Yes.
incredibly
alt-right, insane
awful people.
Yeah.
Who, it's fucking abysmal.
No,
one thing I was going to say.
Hunger Games, though. Sorry, can I just jump in?
Sure.
Because I love the Hunger Games, and I'll say this: you mentioned no one really speaks about it. If you really think about it, it was 3 books, and the fatal mistake of splitting book 3 into 2 films.
Yeah,
but I'm pretty sure did the 4 films come out in the space of 5 years? It was almost.
Films. Yeah,
it was done so quick, and I think that's one of the reasons. Not that it's gone away, but because it finished. And maybe Mockingjay wasn't as big as the other 2. I remember I didn't even watch Mockingjay. They were some of my favourite books. The first 2 books I always loved. I never liked the 3rd book. I think the 3rd book was the least popular book. And then that was the one they wanted to split in 2, which I saw it months after. I was it's fine.
Like, yeah, it's the shortest book. It has a lot of kind of context and stuff like that thrown in. But as far as the franchise is concerned, I'm shocked because it was so popular at the time. I'm so shocked that they've only done 1 extra book on top of what they've done so far, and they haven't gone and done like a Hunger Games TV series or a Hunger Games, like more films going into the history of them, because they've gone and set up a thing where it's like you've got 75 years worth. You could go into Haymitch's story, you could go into the first Hunger Games, which I think they're doing with was it Almost the Snakes or something like that. But you've got
President Snow, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about President Snow.
I don't know if it's the first Hunger Games though. I think it's. I could be wrong.
You've got a history of like 75 Hunger Games that you could delve into. You could even go into the aftermath of how society bounces back and stuff like that. Like, you've set up an entire universe. You've done such a good thing. And the thing that's most known for nowadays is Minecraft. Like, they had such a good thing going. I'm surprised they haven't really, not milked out the franchise, but they haven't used the IP and,
because
really
the author wrote that book a couple of years ago, and immediately the film rights were sold. I wonder, is it? Oh god, I forgot. It's not Stephanie Meyer. That's Twilight, isn't it?
No,
I forgot.
No, it's not.
I forgot the author of the. Is it Suzanne Collins? No. Oh god,
yeah,
Suzanne.
It might be Suzanne Collins. It might be. Wait a sec.
Because that first film came out when I was in year 11, and I remember reading the whole trilogy before in like a week, and I absolutely loved it. And
Suzanne Collins, yeah, good. It is Suzanne Collins.
I wonder if she's got a bit like the J.K. Rowling type thing, where they have the authority on the IP, and without diverting into that, I just want Warner Brothers to just buy that Harry Potter IP, buy her out of it. But the problem is she'd never sell it, even if it's worth less. She'd never sell it because she knows that's the victory for everyone else. But no, I'm excited for it. I'm going to rewatch them all later this year before the new one's out, and I'll end up reading a book before as I haven't picked the book up actually, but I think they do them at school now. I'm pretty sure my cousins had to read them at secondary school. Because if you really think about, like, without getting into politics like too much again, those books are very eye-opening about politics, society, and I think they're some of the best. And I don't think there's anything like it. I know a lot of people be like, "Oh, it's just a rip-off of oh god, what's the
Battle Royale?"
Battle Royale. That's the obvious one. And I mean. I've not seen Battle Royale. I know the logic of it, the students, blah blah blah. But Battle Royale wasn't the first ever isolated fight to the death tale in history, was it? That's what always annoys me. But no. I get how those comparisons are a lot easier. But I'll be excited to rewatch them later this year because I think at least the first 2 were pretty great. And as you said, there's some really good names in there actor-wise as well. A lot of them wanted to be in those films. And you've got the amazing IMAX aspect ratio shot, which everyone still goes on about in the second one. When she goes up, and then the screen does the IMAX thing for the water stuff, which still looks amazing. But
Tom, what was your point you were going to go on to?
Well, I mean, it kind of it seems the moment seems to have gone, but I'll jump back to it anyway. That is regarding Harry Potter.
Go for it. Honestly, this is a chilled out chat, and we're all mature here.
So, my thing is obviously, and it is a cliche, separating the 2, but the sort of counter to that, and something I'm going to take into consideration in the future is that people growing up with books, these books and other forms of this could happen to any author or anybody. So people that grew up with them finding their identity being, or not, they're born in the wrong skin, so they change. They have that transition later on in life. It's going to taint, and 100% it's going to taint how they view the books. So there is, whilst the cliche is you have to disassociate the two. Well, this is tainted now for people that have gone through that transition from later on in life, and they can't view the books or the films in the same way, and that's that is 100% a legitimate.
I agree. I know, I fully agree. I just hate the actual saying. When people use it's like woke. It's when people just overuse the same saying and there's no meaning because they know they're saying the same saying which means nothing.
Yeah, woke's become I saw someone someone on Facebook. Someone said that woke has become the standard word for when somebody doesn't like something. Oh, it's woke.
But no, it is though, and it's what was the other one? Snowflake. Oh, you're a snowflake, and then they're the ones crying about women. So it's one of those. But as I said, like us three are mature enough to have the chat, and I'm with it. It's the same. Like one of my favorite films of all time, Seven, and it now stars Kevin Spacey, which is very awkward whenever you watch it.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying. Like this month, I watched Chinatown. That's directed by Roman Polanski. Like it's I could say it's a fantastically directed film. And at the same time, go, wow, what an absolute piece of shit who directed it,
I do love. Oh god, I almost phrased this terribly. One thing I love seeing on social media is whenever Polanski's name is mentioned, and someone they always bring up the list of all the Oscars and all the A-listers that were like, we demand him to be, not pardoned. What was it? They were trying to get him unbanned to take him to the Oscars, weren't they? And it's a very famous petition, and almost everyone on Hollywood signed it. And now they're like, no, can't be dealing with this man anymore. So, Hollywood hypocrisy, we all know is one of the biggest things.
Is it the fact that as soon as he steps on US soil, he's going to just immediately get arrested?
So he was never there when he won his Oscar, but he got a standing ovation at the Oscars for it.
Fucking just...
I know. And that's it of Hollywood. But moving... sorry, I made a terrible joke then. I'm not doing this contextually. If I go into what I've seen this month, Tom, we'll end on yours. So last week, before I watched Hardly Anything, and I think when we did the last video, I ended it rewatching the Creed film. So I'm just going to start on February the 28th because the last day of last month. I watched Creed 3 at the IMAX. There's a review on that. I think it's a great film. I'm not going to say anything else about the film. I know we had a chat off air, and there's a lot of stuff happening in the news, and hopefully justice comes to the victim of this. The text there for everyone to read. There's going to be there's a lot more important stuff than Marvel, I'm going to say, that people need to be looking at, not the state of a dying franchise. But moving away from Creed 3, first film I watched was on the 4th, and it was a Saturday night. Arsenal had just beat Bournemouth. I damaged my voice celebrating that. I had picked up Training Day when I was in London for the Creed screenings. Training Day got a massive 4K remaster. Warner Brothers doing some 100th anniversary, loads of new cases of everyone's in the Blu-rays and stuff that are really cool. And I picked up Training Day, a film that I've wanted to watch for a long time. I've seen the memes. You know what it's like, guys. You see the memes from the films, and it makes you want to watch those films eventually a bit quicker. And obviously, there's a lot of memes of Denzel in that. I know he'd won the Oscar of that film. And I picked up this 4K because it had really good stuff. And I watched it for the first time. I thought it was fucking incredible. I cannot believe I hadn't seen it. And also, it's when I put it on Twitter, I was watching it, everyone was like tweeting me about it. And I was like, whoa, I know this was like popular. I know people like it, but I didn't realize how much people did like Training Day. So I just wanted to say that one. And then I rewatched Rocky 2 on the 7th. Before the Oscars still, I watched Tar on the 9th, which I very much enjoyed. The 10th, I watched Rocky 3. Again, these were all the 4K reviews. And then on Saturday the 11th, I watched 65, the new Adam Driver film, where he, quote, fights dinosaurs. Is
that any good?
No.
Is it any good?
No. It's 90 minutes, right? It's 90 minutes, and I don't ever get my phone out of the cinema. I took my phone out of my pocket, I put it in my bag to check the time. It'd been on 30 minutes.
Is it made worse by very quickly, is it made worse by the fact that it's an Adam Driver film and will be known as an Adam Driver film?
The belief is that when he signed on board, when he signed on to the film, Sam Raimi was attached direct. That's the theory. I say theory, like Sam Raimi's a producer, but it is known that because the writers of The Quiet Place end up directing it. Then there's all this talk about Sam Raimi producing. Murmurs here and there is that Sam Raimi was attached as director. That's when Adam Driver came on board. He always works with auteurs. Another one for him to tick off. He's got Michael Mann and Coppola casually coming up next. And Sam Raimi obviously then went and did Doctor Strange. This film, obviously, you know me, I've been tracking Adam Driver films for a while. This was meant to come out March last year, and they delayed it a year last year, which is a bad sign. And then all the reports coming out in the lead up to it, like Sony haven't decided what version of the film they want to screen. Not a singular screening in the UK for press. So all the critics, like even like the big ones, had to go to the cinemas on the Friday morning to watch it, to review it. Or I believe some that did junkets were allowed to watch it and they were told, no, you can't do a review before it comes out. So very weird. And the problem with the film inherently is that they're trying to do a dinosaur film on a budget where you can't actually do dinosaurs. And they're not doing it like Predator, where you could have them being, one by one slaughtered or anything. It's like, here's some like dinosaurs, but they're all tiny CGI copies and stuff, and it's not good. It's not good. It's like a meme that never took off. So I think that's pretty much out of cinemas. Had such a torrid time that late that night, I then watched a film I've been wanting to watch for ages. My uncle is in the Navy. He's always asked me to watch this. The Hunt for Red October. I'd never seen it.
Good film.
I bloody loved it. I did not expect to see Sean Connery speaking Russian, even if it was for one line. Obviously, he sounded like Sean Connery still. And I love that the whole concept is that they switch to the English accents after they say, oh God, what's the word? Not Armageddon. There's a word they say that's like the key switch for them to switch the accents. It's because it means the exact same in Russian as it does in English. So it's a very smart way for them to bring that. It's going to frustrate me. I can't remember what the word was. Anyways, that was the night before the Oscars. Then on the Oscar Sunday, I watched Women Talking. Thought it was fine. Still not massive on it. But again, I'd probably need to see it in better circumstances. And then I didn't watch anything for the following weekend. And obviously there's a favourite bloke that's come back for a fourth new film. So on the Friday night, I watched John Wick. The Saturday night, I watched John Wick 2. And the Sunday morning, I watched John Wick 3, Parabellum. Great little triple bill. Second time I've seen Parabellum. I don't like it anywhere near as much as the first two. It just waffles a bit with the whole, here's the high table, let's go to Casablanca, let's go. But it's still inherently like quality.
Very quickly, because I mean, I know you're going to go into talking about John Wick 4 in a second. My question was always with the franchise, because I do like a trilogy, and I do like things being cut off by being a trilogy, and I'm forever disappointed that The Raid was never a trilogy and has been stuck in two films. What? We don't
might
know
be like Godfather.
Back, that's the thing.
Wait 15 years, there might be a third one.
But like, my question is, because when I watched Parabellum, I thought they're letting it continue on. They're letting it run on. There's going to be another film. Should it have stopped? And my question here is, and I don't know if it's a spoiler or not for a new film that's just come out, is there going to be a John Wick 5? That's just my only question. I
would say, Tom, have you seen it?
I have not seen John Wick 4. No,
it's fine. I'm not going to spoil it, so anyone watching, we've got a comment to bring up.
Yeah. I have heard it is like 20 hours long.
If they really wanted to, they could do another John Wick film, but it is not a cliffhanger like the second or the third.
Yeah.
Me personally, I don't want another one. And
they've got the Continental TV series, haven't they?
That's going to be a prequel. So that's now confirmed at 3. It's going to be, an event later this year. It's going to be 3 episodes, each at 90 minutes. And it's going to be about the origins of the Continental with Winston. And the fatal error is that Mel Gibson's in it. So that was a awkward one for them to do. And that was originally...
How can you do that without Lance Reddick?
Well, it's a prequel for like 40 years ago. Like it's not it's going to be, it's like 70s New York apparently.
Yeah.
So that'll be why. But obviously on the Monday I saw John Wick 4 at the press screening. One of the best, I don't know the press screening, but the atmosphere, quote unquote, at these screenings is always interesting The best I've ever been to was Fast 8 because every single not Fast 8 or Fast 9, don't know what they're up to. Fast 9. Everyone was in on the joke in that screening at that point because they're all the film people. They were all in on the joke, and that made that one of the funniest screenings. It was the same for John Wick 4. Everyone's in on the humor, everyone's in on the references, everyone's in on the action, and that was incredible. The problem with seeing it there is that the IMAX in Leicester Square was genuinely too big to appreciate the action. It just needed to be a little bit smaller, the screen. So I did go to the IMAX that weekend with my dad to watch it with him on the Saturday night. And it was still insane. Actually, the second viewing was better than the first viewing. I liked it more. I didn't slag off too much in the spoiler-free, but there was a few things I didn't like in the spoiler-free, but I've sort of dropped from issues of that now. And I would say, it's not a spoiler, and you know me, I don't do that nonsensical fanatic crap. John Wick 4 genuinely feels like it could have been the third John Wick film. And that's my takeaway. And there's a lot of great stuff in John Wick 3. There's some really good stuff in John Wick 3. But genuinely, at times, John Wick 4 felt like it could have been the third film, and it would have ended one of the greatest trilogies in history. But I know 3's got its fans. A lot more people like it than I do.
Yeah. My housemate has just finished watching sort of all through, or finished watching the third one. He says he prefers. He says they get better with each one. And he prefers the third one over the first two.
And that's fair. And I think that makes it more exciting. If loads of different people have different orders of stuff, that normally means it's just a bit more exciting as a series for me. Because it means you can have, like, not better discussions, but it means that everyone's reading it and taking things very differently. But for me, I'd say 4 now is the best one. I'd say 4, then 2, then 1, then Gap, then 3. And on the same day as John Wick 4, I finally ticked off something that's been on my Netflix list for about 2 years. I watched Boys in the Hood. Incredible film. I mean, I knew obviously bits what it was going to be about, but because I'd never seen the story and the making of it, that was probably one of the best directorial debuts I've ever seen in my life in a film. And I know that there'll be a list of all these great ones, but Boys in the Hood, that was a very interesting watch. And if no one has seen it, and obviously over here in the UK, obviously we hear about American politics, but we don't really hear about, not like gang culture or like street stuff, but that early 90s stuff, it's not really something that is covered in modern media. But it was very interesting seeing something contextually made in the 90s, set in the 90s from people that lived in those areas, made it one of the most authentic sort of American films I've seen in a very long time. So if anyone hasn't seen it by now, I'm sure everyone's seen it. Didn't know Lawrence Fishburne was in it. It's a bit of a Lawrence Fishburne week, in truth. Didn't watch The Matrix after, though. But what I did watch after the hype of John Wick 4, obviously I love Donnie Yen. I've seen the first, I can't remember how many Ip Man films I've seen. Obviously Rogue One, and I'm not going to rewatch Rogue One until Andor Season 2 is finished. I finally ticked off an action film I've spent many years waiting to watch, which is called Hero. It came out in 2002. It's a Chinese film. I can't remember the director's name, but it stars Tony Leung, Jet Li, Donnie Yen, and Maggie Cheung. And I've got to say, it was fucking insane. If you want a good action film, something really different, and it's not like action, like, oh, it is only action, a really, really good action film with actual character arcs and story in it, I'd really recommend it. I hate anyone that compares films to things like Rashomon because it's like too easy, but you know, when you have the point of view narratives and you have multiple ones in a film, it kind of does that in an incredible way. So if it's 1 hour, 40 minutes. It's a nightmare to get a hold of. It's not streaming anywhere in the UK. So I picked up the Blu-ray for £7 because it's like £5 to rent it off Amazon, which I'm not going to do. So I picked it up on Blu-ray, finally watched it. And even the behind the scenes, 2002, the film came out. Harvey Weinstein bought the American rights, just didn't bother to release it. And only until, quote, Tarantino intervenes. And apparently when it did come out in 2004, it actually said on the posters presented by Quentin Tarantino, like Weinstein didn't want it out at all. And I'm sat there saying, so why buy the rights? Why buy the distribution? And I know that just happened, you know, we had Devotion that came out earlier this year, the Jonathan Majors and, oh God, I forgot his name from Top Gun Maverick. fucking that's embarrassing. The plane film, and because the company folded that had UK distribution last year, so Amazon picked them up, released it on the spot. That's how that worked. But yeah, this is just Weinstein being Weinstein in the early noughties, isn't it? So I recommend Hero to anyone that hasn't seen it. It's incredible, and I do want to watch more martial art films. I like watching proper ones, and that was Sunday last week, and then this week's been a bit of a chill week. Tuesday was The Phantom Menace. Last night was Attack of the Clones. Today was Revenge of the Sith. And it's April now, so I'm not going to plan what else is next, but it's probably not hard to guess what the next 3 films are probably going to be.
I'll put it into this because the only time I've seen, because I will be going, I've seen those films more than enough times, especially over recent years, and I feel like I need a gap between each time that I go through them. For me personally. However, saying that, I haven't watched the sequel trilogy as a free set like since the release of the 3rd film.
Episode 9?
I haven't seen Rise of Skywalker since watching it once here in Austria, in this town that I'm in currently, where I watched it on opening night and then I just tried to blank it from my memory, and I haven't seen it since. And I will be rewatching it probably on next month, and I'll be giving my thoughts on it in the next monthly movie.
What I'll say, last year I hadn't, I might have watched, not including the prequel drink-alongs from lockdown. I hadn't watched the series as a saga until last May before the top 10 ranking video. And I did 1, 2, 3. I did 4, 5, 6, and then I did 7, 8, and 9. 7 I still love, and I know people have very legitimate issues with the story, repetitive stuff, blah blah blah. But I episode 7 to me is very contextual. That back in 2013 when they were making it, oh no, you can't talk about the prequels. You've got to do everything the way it was before. Blah 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 blah. Last Jedi, I think that and Empire are the top, the best Star Wars films by a country mile. Those two in their own category. Chuck Andor up in there as a series. Episode 8 still slaps hard. Obviously, I know I like it a lot more than a lot of others do, but episode 8 slaps hard. And then I'm not childish until like, ooh, I'm not going to watch episode 9. I'm not saying you're being childish, Tate, but you know exactly what I mean when I say things like that. I said, listen, if I'm watching 1 through to 9, I'm going to just take it on the chin and I'm going to watch it for the first time since the cinema. And the experience is just still really, it's frustrating more than anything, because obviously to me, episode 8 is like peak Star Wars. And my issue with 9 still, I mean, listen, you can go back as far as it needs to go. I'm not going to sit and talk about, this, that. Rian Johnson came aboard to write, direct 8 and then just write 9. Should have been brought back to direct 9. Trevorrow's never been hired in the first place. Trevorrow couldn't write around Carrie Fisher's death, which we know. We know, yes, there's cool concept for a story, but the script itself was abysmal. There's just some good stuff, but most of it was terrible. And then they got JJ in more so out of favour's sake. Everyone says, oh, but they could have delayed it. They'd have then delayed it into a pandemic, so we still probably wouldn't have had Star Wars out till 3 months ago. And if we'd have waited an extra year for that, fucking hell. The issue with 9, and this is kind of, I think Dave might be in a similar boat than when we spoke about it. There's some really good scenes, good moments, some good character stuff in that film. But as a collective, it's so bad.
Just hearing that makes me like, I have not seen 9, and I have absolutely no interest.
But I'll tell you this. I will tell you this, right? The Bad Batch. So season 2 is now out in full. Now, I didn't care for season 1 too much. There was, like the Clone Wars, when you get a good arc, it is up there with like the best you can have from Star Wars. And this Bad Batch season 2, I didn't bother with. I said I'll watch it before it finishes, and that'll be our obligation more than anything. The last like 7-8 weeks, no joke. Every Wednesday, I'm seeing as many tweets for the Bad Batch now as I am Mandalorian, and everyone was talking about not like, oh, it's good. They were talking about the quality of it, and I was like, Bad Batch, okay. So I sat down to watch it a week and a half ago, and I did the first 14 episodes in like 3 days. And it has some of the best Star Wars stuff. It's like Clone Wars, right? If you look at the early episodes of Clone Wars, it struggled. It didn't know what it was. It was setting it up. Same with Rebels season 1. Don't know why, Bad Batch Season 2 has some of the best Star Wars. Character progression, Imperial people they bring in. But what it's doing, and this isn't a spoiler, Bad Batch Season 2, a key concept is cloning within the Empire. And I'm not sitting here saying they're trying to justify Episode 9 at all. But the sort of takeaway I have from the series is because what happened in 9 is now officially canon, as they plug in these gaps, which they need to do, because that's what story is, there's certain things, and even Phil had the same, me and Phil were talking on Thursday in the stream about that, although I don't like 9, I at least respect them that there is a story they're going with that's going to take them. Even if that story doesn't work at the end, it's really good what they've been doing with this. And obviously Mandalorian is building stuff behind the scenes, of course, with the First Order. So it's very interesting what Lucasfilm is doing with Star Wars at the moment. But for me, 9, and listen, I know people that really like 9, and fair play to them if they do. But for me, it's on that rewatch last year, like watching the first 8, which I love, for the last one to be the one you don't like, for me at least, that's more. If I disliked, I don't know, a hypothetical number 5 out of 9, it's like Rocky. It's like Rocky films. There's only one bad Rocky film, which is Rocky 5. You get 4 great ones, then you get Rocky 5, and then you get 4 great ones, including Creed's after. And it makes it worse. It's the final one of the series, and all these rumors about, is there going to be a film about Rey or with Finn and everything? It's like, to me, they're already playing past 9. And I'm not saying it's an apology for 9, but it's the Star Wars type's interesting at the moment, but I'm not going to rewatch on that one. I've rewatched the prequels. My question is after rewatching the prequels, and I had this today, do I watch Kenobi before I watch Episode 4? That's my take.
No.
Because I liked Kenobi, but I'm intrigued to see how does it do doing 3-film series, 3 films. It's a good question.
I think, well, here's my take on Star Wars at the moment, and I'm sure there'll be loads more takes done before Star Wars Celebration. But I think you've absolutely nailed it on the head there with your talk about Bad Batch, because I've never watched Bad Batch. But if you're saying that what they're doing is they're putting in kind of things that can be later translated or later kind of, plugged into the Star Wars canon so that things from the films have made sense.
And it seems very well written in Bad Batch.
They've completed the saga now. They've done the saga. That's done. Yeah. I doubt they touch it ever again. I doubt they go with the same storylines ever again. So what they're doing is with these series, with Andor, with The Mandalorian, with Obi-Wan Kenobi, with Bad Batch, with everything that they're doing right now, they seem to be just filling in the gaps and filling out what they've already made, taking the part of the universe and just plugging in the holes. Fixing some things so they kind of make sense. I think once they've done that, that's when they can move forwards and start making the films again, and that's when they can go to different stories and everything like that. They don't want to expand the universe past anything they've got so far. They want to keep it very contained because they understand that from like Phantom Menace all the way through to Rise of Skywalker, they've got a lot of problems in there and a lot of things that people get on with, but also a lot of things that people do not. And they'd rather fix the things that they don't get on with first, or fill in the gaps and maybe do bits and pieces which are kind of just for the fans and bits and pieces which are just for them solving the lore of the universe before moving on to the next big thing, which I'm assuming will be announced probably at the next Celebration.
I mean, sort of going. If you think about it, between Episode 1 and 9 is 67 years. That's like insane. That's like what 1956. That was today. Like Tottenham's won a league in that period. That's how far back we're going. And it's one of those things where, again, like if they were just shamelessly doing a series of Bad Batch and they chucked in like one episode, here's a cloning thing being low key hidden by the Empire, you'd be like, ugh. But because it's such an integral story point across multiple episodes, it's a season storyline. It's the seasonal storyline. It's really interesting what they're doing. But I'm kind of like the way I've always seen this expanded universe, because it is. And that was the old, the old expanded universe got destroyed.
Yeah.
No, they paid $8 billion for something and done some shitty books, bar some great stuff with Thrawn. The nonsense of, how did Chewbacca die? A planet fell on him. Things like that aren't ever going to translate. And the best thing for their universe is to just hit that reset button. You've paid the $8 billion, borrow the stuff from the universe that works great, which is, hey, we might be getting Thrawn and Mandalorian at some point. Certainly, they teased it season 2. We know we're getting the Ahsoka series. For me, at least, I mean, because the Star Wars hype is fully back in at the moment. Obviously, I'm a bit of a different vibe, but I'm genuinely so shocked at how good Bad Batch has been. And again, it's not to slate season 1. Season 1's got some really good stuff. But the core of season 1 was like, here's the stuff straight after Order 66, that's episode 3. And then here's like Camino and, explaining, what was one of the questions people used to talk about when you're younger? Oh, are the stormtroopers all clones? Well, no, they're not. And here's not a series telling you why and how, but you're seeing the evolution. And for me, at least, as like a Star Wars nerd, I like that sort of stuff. Like, I want to see more of the universe. I don't need films on it. I don't need to go to the cinema to do like a Marvel. I don't need 3-4 films a year. If you want to do a TV show every year or two that's going to be good and interesting, then I'm fully down for it. And the quality of the animation itself is just high and above what most of animated stuff do. But yeah, it is interesting. And that's why 9, I'm very curious. I'm probably not going to rewatch it. But at least, based on episode 9, Snoke is a failed clone of the Emperor. Sorry. That's what my takeaway was from the scene of all of his corpses in the bloody tanks. So I can at least live with that in my head that maybe it was building towards Snoke. But I think Mandalorian's going on a very set path, the path I don't know about yet, but we're going to find out more over the coming weeks. And as you say, Celebration next week. The rumors are that they will announce, quote, 3 films. And I know that Tom, you watched Lost. What's the writer of Lost? Not J.J. Abrams.
Damon Lindelof.
He bizarrely, so a few months ago it came out Lindelof was going to write a Star Wars film. And even I was like, okay, I'm not too sure about it. It's not seen much of his, but I know that people always talk about, set up story not executed well or doesn't end well, blah blah blah.
Yeah, disagree with that, but
he did an interview right about 10 days ago saying, I don't know what people are going to make of my Star Wars film. I don't know if I can basically do it. It was a bonkers interview on the Saturday. And on the Monday night, it was Lindelof's no longer writing Star Wars film. Now, I don't do the whole speculation stuff, but when it's an officially unannounced film that has never been formally announced by Lucasfilm, I don't really care who's involved because it's not been announced by them as a film. It's technically tabloid rumors, although it's probably true. And then people having a meltdown online. Then the next day it came out that Stephen Knight has took over and is now writing it, of course, from Peaky Blinders and a lot of other stuff, which is very exciting because Stephen Knight is not someone I'd ever imagined doing Star Wars, which makes it a more exciting person to be involved. So, sorry, I'm just waffling. Star Wars is in a very interesting phase at the moment where, Bob Iger's come back to Disney and he said it straight away. He wants Star Wars back at cinemas. Bob Chapek wanted Star Wars on streaming. Kenobi was meant to be a film. It got made to move to streaming during COVID.
You can tell.
Yeah,
it was fine. It was okay. The last 2 episodes were really good. The rest was
It was meant to shoot at Pinewoods, on location. When it was first made to a series, it was then to be at Pinewood. The code name was Pilgrim. And then when COVID kicked off, because all the cast are LA, America based, they kept the production in LA, used the volume. The rest is history, and Pilgrim became the code name for Andor because they set up all the fake production companies already. So, because Pilgrim's original code name was White Snake, which makes sense for an espionage series. But sorry, I've gone on a tangent. Tom, you're going to say something. Jump in.
Yeah. A couple of things really. This brings me back to the Star Wars list that you had everyone do, the top 10. And how immediately after I submitted that, I was like, this needs to change like completely. So I had going up the list.
I mean, you hate half of it, didn't you?
Yeah, I hate is a strong word. It's kind of bringing back. It's just nostalgia for the sake of nostalgia, and I think it should go in different and new and interesting directions. We've done the Empire bit. Let's move on to something else. That's another point that I was going to come on to, but I Clone Wars last. I had Attack of the Clones as second last, which, to be fair, I should have changed because I rewatched most of these after the fact. Attack of the Clones I actually quite liked. Phantom Menace I absolutely fucking hated.
Really?
It was fucking boring. It was so dull.
See, I still love Phantom
Dude,
Menace.
Duel of
Oh,
Fates.
no.
I've got your,
Yeah,
I've got
Duel
yours
of
up on the
Fates, mate.
screen.
Pod racing.
Yeah, I can see. And right, it's Phantom Menace should not even be on the top 10. I fucking hated it.
So, because the interesting thing with Phantom Menace, because I watched it on Tuesday. Obviously, I've seen it a million times. Obviously, I've got a lot of 4K stuff right at home, so I quite like home media things. Phantom Menace looks a million times better than Attack of the Clones.
Oh, yeah.
Looks, and obviously because they use so many miniatures, location, all of that stuff. Obviously, you think O2 amazing technology for Attack of the Clones. The world wasn't ready for that imagination yet, and that's what the volume is now. That is what George Lucas' vision was. But yeah, I mean, even my list, mate. I look at this. I mean, I think if this was done tomorrow, I'd probably have Phantom Menace in 7th, not 8th. I feel a bit annoyed after that, but I love. The problem is with me, right? I'm not going to count Clone Wars. Aside from Clone Wars, I love 10 of the 11 Star Wars films. So I'm quite easy going. Tayte, I've got yours up here.
I mean pull mine up. Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah.
Oh, you had Rogue One at first. Oof.
I did have Rogue One at first.
Hard disagree.
Hard disagree. I love Rogue One. Rogue One's fantastic. And do you know what? Rogue One, I think, has been elevated by the fact that now one of the major characters in the film has been given half of a fleshed out backstory.
They just need to nail season 2. They nail season 2.
Andor as a series is not just some of the best Star Wars written in kind of the entire kind of canon, but across modern kind of sci-fi media, it's some of the best storytelling I've seen put to screen. It's absolutely fantastic as a series. Nails the atmosphere, nails the direction, nails the acting on every single sense. Just phenomenal across the board. I think that they've got a good thing going there with that series, and I've enjoyed Mandalorian this series. I'm not into it as much as I was with the previous series, but I still think that Star Wars, with some of their TV shows, some of the stuff they're doing, they are clearly on the right path, and they are kind of doing the right things across their media. Especially if what you said about Bad Batch is true as well. It seems to be like they're putting all their ducks in line, and come this celebration, we'll find out. Yeah.
Oh, you could talk to high heaven about how good Bad Batch. I have no interest in watching.
That's fine. But I'm like, the problem with Star Wars is that some people try and force down their throats, like, gotta watch all this, and even I'm like, But
this month it isn't even about Star Wars. It's like, go watch Ted Lasso, go watch Succession, go watch
Well, yeah, because like Last of Us is finished, Bad Batch is finished. There's been so much TV. I watched a really good series called Extraordinary, actually. But last thing I'll say on Star Wars, the one thing I just hate seeing more than anything is, why the Mandalorian needs to be more like Andor, or why Andor needs to be more like Mandalorian.
No,
it's good. I don't want some bollocks Marvel where every single fucking entry's become the same. That's how shit dies. Even if someone's trying something really different. I mean, Andor, it's a British espionage drama set in Star Wars. It's inherently not outright Star Wars. There's no over-the-top cameos. There's no, let's put a battle in for the sake of battle. Let's do lightsabers because we need lightsabers. It's everything, not identical. It's like the identity of its creator, which I respect so much more. And at the same time, I don't want the Mandalorian to be like either. I don't mind having the one thing where it is, Ahsoka was meant to be an animated series, which is now going to be live action. So the more different things are, the potentially better the output is, even if you get things that might miss. I'd rather have something that's a miss that's at least original than something just being a solid copy and being crap. So that's
I have a quick question. Excuse me, and it's specifically around the Mandalorian and Book of Boba.
Is it going to be about the bloody episode in Book of Boba?
Yeah. So
it's quite.
So well, having things connected is great. Would you not want them still as separate, so story points? You don't have to go and watch something else for story points on the show that you're watching.
1,000,000%. It's exactly why I stopped. I never even got to the Defenders on Netflix because the moment. But it started off great with just Daredevil, but then to watch Daredevil season 3, you had to have watched loads of the other stuff, and I just didn't bother. And what I will say, I think Lucasfilm has probably now found this out the hard way that. But I mean, Book of Boba Fett had good audience figures, as in numbers, people watching it. I think probably like 80% of people that watched Mandalorian probably watched that show. But that 20% that didn't, and it's like, hey, how's Mandalorian got Grogu back, and where on earth has this beautiful ship come from? What I will say about
Spoilers. Spoiler warning.
What I will say to that though is, this is the downside of cross, because Star Wars hasn't ever been that. You've got to watch ABC to understand like EFG. And I quite like that you don't have to have that with Star Wars. And I do think when Favreau spoke about it recently, I think even they're all aware. And I don't think they'd ever do something that extreme again. I don't mind a character coming in, not to set up a show. I don't mind a character like Ahsoka popping up for an episode, because that worked.
It's the fact that the episode was called "The Return of the Mandalorian," and
I know.
it was,
and it's essential. It's essential watching for the Mandalorian.
It was just a Mandalorian episode.
It was a really quick way for them to. They clearly, I mean, the production of the Mandalorian, season 2 of the Mandalorian was written before season 1 released. My theory, and that's not stupid like theories, but I don't think they ever imagined how. I mean, listen to me. The Mandalorian's been the biggest Star Wars has been since probably Revenge of the Sith. That's not a discredit to the sequel trilogy or to Clone Wars. I'm telling, like, when I go into normal shops and I'm seeing Mandalorian stuff everywhere, I don't think they expect it to be as big as it is, and they know they needed Grogu back with the Mandalorian. The issue is they addressed that in the spin-off show rather than being episode 1 of season 3, which completely boggles my mind. And again, I think they've learned that and won't be doing that again. I don't think they're that naive. And also with the way Marvel's going at the moment, I think as audiences are checking out more and more, Lucasfilm's probably a step ahead saying, you know, we definitely can't be doing this. But it's a good question, Tom.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. It was just too much for me. Like, and that's why like Book of Boba Fett was 7 episodes. It's because it was clearly going to be a 6-episode series, and they tricked in the Mandalorian for that. But yeah, sorry,
Should we
it's
move
turned
on
into
to
the Star Wars stream. Yeah, Tom, I want to know what you watched.
Tom, what have you watched this month?
This is where he comes out saying he watched like Star Wars again, and we have to.
Yeah, no. My one's in sort of no particular order, really. 'Cause I didn't. I know you two are doing it by date, but I watched Doctor Who, the new series, or the from Russell T Davies up to series 5, which was the first Moffat, and then I stopped because the Moffat was it was
Moffat
a slog to get through.
It's a tough one, and I'm a massive Doctor Who fan, and I'm excited about Russell T Davies coming back. I'm excited about Ncuti Gatwa to being the new Doctor and stuff like that. But I will admit I've done a rewatch before, and I like Matt Smith as an actor. I like the actors involved in the Moffat era, but the writing is just so. Everything has to be an event. Everything has to be connected, and every single episode adds that event and adds that connection. What I liked about Russell T Davies era was that every single individual episode could be taken as an individual episode, and they would have tiny little kind of breadcrumbs left that would lead to the finale, and you'd be like putting the pieces together in the finale, not putting the pieces together as the story's going on, which is what you get from the Moffat era.
Yeah, it is too complicated for its own good, I think.
Exactly.
I mean, have you seen that Moffat's writing on the new season? I think he's I don't think it's been officially confirmed, but I'm pretty sure he's getting a guest episode. I don't mind.
Here's the thing. If he
was good when he did that before.
His guest episodes are some of the best episodes that that Doctor Who's seen. But it's when he's the lead writer that's when they have major problems. And don't even get me started on Chibnall. Chibnall is just one of the worst lead writers the show's ever had.
My current favourite is my favourite is always Christopher Eccleston. His episodes are surprisingly more tonally darker than everything else that follows, and he's fantastic in it. You got the Empty Child is brilliant 2-parter. Dalek is one of the absolute best one-off Dalek episodes I've watched. It's fucking brilliant. And then you go Russell T Davies is just great because he doesn't make it so all the this is something that I think stains later, or at least the series 5 that I watched. is that you gets bogged down in techno jargon, and there's not that much in, or it's less pronounced. You don't necessarily care about, or it's not brought to the forefront. Is what I'm trying to say. Also, I actually happen to really like, because when I first sort of was going through all those years ago, week by week, I thought Martha Jones was a terrible companion, but she's
one of the best companions.
She's definitely grown on me, and I hated Catherine Tate when I first watched it, but she is incredible in it. I've done a complete 180 on Catherine Tate as a companion.
She's coming back.
Yeah,
she is coming back. Yeah,
I am excited because she was brilliant in it. She's my second favorite companion. Obviously, the first one is obviously going to be Billie Piper, Rose Tyler. But yeah, I loved it until series 5, and then I stopped watching because I can't be asked. It's just too long, too much time. But anyway, that was one of the things that I sort of watched. I also finished my watch of Star Trek Deep Space Nine earlier in the month. So I got to season 7, halfway through season 7, and then stopped for whatever reason and never picked it up.
Never seen it, wouldn't know.
I implore anyone to watch it. Like I would say that previously I'd been a sort of Star Wars over Star Trek, but
yeah, you've always been big on Trek since I've known you, haven't you?
Trek is just it's probably one of the best sci-fi shows ever written. It's
this is going to be just horrible and horrifying. The only Star Trek that I've seen is the movies that were recently done by J.J. Abrams, which
same.
I'm
the exact same.
But at the same time, the only reason why I know Deep Space Nine exists is because I was flicking through the channels a couple of years ago, and the question came up on the TV show Pointless, where it was like I think it was naming. It wasn't Star Trek
crew
series.
member?
It was naming. No, it wasn't naming crew members. It was something to do with Star Trek series and being named, and it was the prize-winning one for the people to win it at the end. And Pointless answer was Deep Space Nine as the least known Star Trek associated TV show or film. Like, out of all of the Star Trek media, Deep Space Nine is the least known one. And I'm shocked that you just said you watched through the first 7 series, because obviously it would have been popular if there's been 7 series of it.
It's so, yeah. I mean, originally it was sort of the but this is sort of the thing with Star Trek media in general, that new things kind of get discounted. So it happened the first couple of years of Next Generation as well, where people were like, oh, this isn't original Trek and whatever. It's got no, Kirk, Spock, and McCoy in it, whatever. And also, just to say, Star Trek discourse and fan and quote.
I've heard about this.
I've heard about it. Awful people.
But you know what? Star Wars has it. Marvel has it.
Yeah.
DC has it. Star Trek has it. Doctor Who has it. Every fandom has it. But I think because Star Wars was always the kingpin, the most popular one, the most divisive, because of the prequels, when social media got bigger, that always took the flying flag. And listen, there's a lot of terrible people online. We're all into football. We know how bad football is on social media as well. And I think every popular franchise has it.
Yeah. Oh, it's 100% agree. But so Deep Space Nine, if anything, watch so Star Trek, TNG, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager are all on Netflix to watch in the UK. Deep Space Nine is obviously the best, because what it does is it takes the ideal version of the Federation that has been portrayed in the original series in TNG, turns it on its head. An idealistic society that, what does it have to do to maintain that? It's got some the first season is okay. It's got some pretty naff episodes in it. but it's got some really good ones. So at the very end of the first season, there's an episode called Duet, which is fantastic. But later on in the series, it's like it goes no holds barred. It's serialized storytelling before serialized storytelling was a thing. But if you haven't never seen any other Star Trek media, you just watch this because it's fantastic. It really is.
Interesting.
Not to just diss this, but if I was to watch Star Trek, I have to start at the beginning and watch the original, like Shatner and Spock and
the original. The first series of the original is really good. The second is all right, is good. The third has some good episodes, but the Paramount didn't quite at the time. They didn't believe in or it was like way overblown budget wise. So they chopped the budget. Each series they chopped the budget down, and you can tell in the third one because and the creative team just weren't at it really. Also, first series of Next Generation is terrible, awful.
Is that the one with Patrick Stewart?
Yeah, it's got one of the like. Everyone talks about Gene Roddenberry and him having like a big vision of the future. He approved a script and one episode that was incredibly racist. Just incredibly racist.
It's Star Trek.
Yeah.
I thought Star Trek's the one that is like genuinely like
Sweet clean.
Oh no,
Yeah.
it's got some real like oof. And like the big bads or they were supposed to be the big villains were Ferengi. Their first appearance is very shit, but they are very much Jewish stereotypes, and that is yeah. However, their first outings are just terrible. Later on, Deep Space Nine does a good job of, trying to distance itself from that original concept of them. It's like everything. It's got its ups and downs, but it's bloody brilliant. Some notable episodes, right? I've got them listed. Okay, the best one is series 6, I think, In the Pale Moonlight. Trials and Tribulations.
I've heard of In the Pale Moonlight as an episode before, but I have no idea where from.
It is
not Batman 89.
It is fantastic. Call to Arms, Sacrifice of Angels, The Siege of AR 558, Way of the Warrior, Far Beyond the Stars, The Visitor, and previously mentioned Duet. I just sum up there. It's jam packed full of good episodes. But I think I've spoken enough, or like gushed enough about Deep Space Nine.
It's fine. We're going for the star. We're going for the franchises with a star in the title. I don't know what's next.
So after, sorry, George, go on.
No. I was no. It's fine. It's all sorted.
After I finished that, I was like, I really need something else to watch. So I watched Bullet Train. The Brad Pitt.
Ah, yes.
I'm very curious about this.
I actually quite liked it.
Yeah,
I thought it was quite good.
It's the same as my thoughts last month. It's a good.
It's got very popular. Like it's on all the memes now, isn't it? It's on all the videos. It's on all the reels. The punching through the train, the tangerine and him. I want to rewatch it because I hated it at the cinema, but it's because it's ingrained in like social media culture now. I'm like, have I missed something?
Those two characters are the best thing in it. Tangerine and what's his name?
Lemon. Is it Lemon or?
Yeah. I think so. They're the two best characters in it.
It's interesting because obviously David Leitch started off on John Wick, did the first one with Chad Stahelski, and then he did the Deadpool films, Bullet Train, something else, Atomic Blonde, and he's gone his own ways. And obviously Chad Stahelski stayed with John Wick, so it's very interesting seeing how their careers have gone. But any other films, Tom? Any other shows?
Yeah, so I went to the cinema. The only time I went to the cinema, probably in the last year, is to watch Creed 3 with my housemate. And I tweeted about this on the Films and Beer Twitter after the fact. The worst thing going to the cinema is other people. Other people are just so right. To paint the picture, before the film even started, we had a bunch of teenagers. Like, well, I say teenagers, they're probably about 11, 12, sat like a row in front of us to the side, who were doing like pranks at the start before the film, and they're like, "Oh, why don't you run in front of the screen and wave and pretend you're going to the toilet?" I remember having a Alan Partridge moment when they were doing that, of going, "Oh, that's great banter."
I bet it's like,
well,
you know what?
They oh, sorry. I'll finish the story. Sorry. So throughout the film, they were, and this is probably what tainted my experience as well, which is why I thought it was fine. Like, the film was fine, like okay at best, but they were just messing about and throwing things at each other throughout the whole film, and it got to a point where, you know, you want to be British about these things, where you just sit there and just go, "Oh, this is annoying, but I'm just going to stick with it because it'll be over soon and we won't have to worry about it." But halfway through, or about 3/4 through, I just had enough and sat and leant down and probably had a few colourful words to say to them, but essentially said, "Can you shut the fuck up, please?" And
I've said that before.
Not a peep after that.
Yeah,
I've only ever said it once. It was at Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, right? The fifth one, and it must have been the start of summer holidays. I was at the cinema with one of my mates, and then these kids, to be honest, remember like bogies with Dick and Dom? They were just shouting biscuit every couple of seconds. And, you know, they started it before the film. I was like, yeah, you know, they'll shut the fuck up when the film starts. And then they didn't. And then the plane scene, and then they kept doing it on dialogue scenes. And I turned around and said, "Shut the fuck up," as loud as I could to them. And they didn't do anything for the rest of the day. Probably about like what year was that? 2015? I was 19. They were probably about 6-7 years younger than me. I didn't care. I was like, I want to watch Tom Cruise running away from things in peace and quiet.
Yeah.
But,
I mean,
Titanic.
I probably could have chosen my language a bit better, but
no, because they need to hear it.
No,
if you didn't,
needs it.
if you ask politely, they'll carry on. But once a younger person hears a swear word, they instantly shit themselves. That's how it always works. And
so,
Titanic recently.
I was going to say an interesting debate in general, because I've seen films in America, and I've also experienced, I'd say, something similar with doing the film festival stuff, like with the screenings and the reactions of the screenings and stuff like that. And I remember there being a post last year at some point where people were talking about, like, I can't remember what film it was.
All kicked off, didn't it?
Yeah, just like people. Yeah, people reacting to screenings and stuff like that, and people missing out on key dialogue and everything like that, and people getting really angry about it. And I know it's an American thing of people like reacting to scenes and like being really loud and stuff like that. Even to the point where when I was watching Scream 2 this month, the opening scene to Scream to everyone in the cinema reacting to things that are happening on the screen at the time, people talking over the top, and people being okay with it. And it's just like, Jesus Christ, like the whole, I don't mean to be really British here, but when I go to the cinema, unless I'm going to like a festival where everyone's in on the joke and everyone's kind of laughing and stuff like that, I want the screen to be silent. There's only a few things I want people to react to. It was the same with watching like Star Wars at the premieres and stuff like that.
I was to say the Last Jedi midnight screening. That's one of the only times, and I didn't mind it because that was the occasion of Leicester Square IMAX midnight. Ryan Johnson turned up, and that was only really it was sarcastically throughout The Force Awakens, which again that's fine because it's 2 years old at that point. Mm-hmm. And I tactically went to the loo at the end, as everyone else should have done.
You kind of expected that from the screening anyway, because it's a big screening. It's opening night. I mean, they had Ryan Johnson there in the building and stuff like that, so it made sense to have that kind of reaction because it was more like a fan screening. Whereas if I'm going to a normal cinema and I remember a few years ago I was watching Blade Runner, and we had a few people in the screening react to some of the things on screen during Blade Runner. It's like, you know, it ruins my experience because I'm there to be wowed and just sit there and just have my moments and enjoy the film for myself. And people are talking over the screen. People are like reacting to scenes and stuff like that. And it's not a fan screening at that point. It's an actual film screening. People have paid money to go and see it. We haven't paid money to go and see other people react to it. You can do that by watching like react videos on YouTube and stuff like that.
It's why I hate the Everyman Cinema chain. There's nothing worse than, I mean, I've been maybe 3 or 4 backs. There's nothing worse than sitting down to watch a film and some twat in front of you orders a meal and a server has to come over, block your view, drop off a warm meal during a screening, you know, with a knife and fork. And then I think I watched Widows at one when I was at Jared's Cross, and it was in the evening and everyone had fucking wine glasses. So you could see the reflection off the screen in everyone's glasses. And I was so pissed off. I think I've been to Everyman 4 times. One of them was my sister's ex, so I watched Bohemian Rhapsody there, and I wasn't going to pay for it, and that's why obviously I went there because I'm not paying to watch film there. And then the only other 2 times I had to was Widows, and then The Irishman, because Everyman was the only place that showed The Irishman in England. I remember. I mean, to be fair to The Irishman,
really sorry, just very quickly. To be fair to The Irishman, you need a meal at some point during that film because it's so long. Like, it's more like the people that are like, oh, let me order a meal before. Like, no, go and eat before you go to the cinema.
Yeah. No, I'll double down. Let's all double down on this opinion, right? This is irritating as hell.
A full meal. I don't mind. Snacks are fine, although people can be horrifically loud eating popcorn. But take snacks to a cinema.
I'm playing devil's.
Have an entire meal.
I'm playing devil's advocate here because genuinely, if I was sat down in the cinema watching Irishman, knowing how long it was, I would probably order a meal. Like,
that's on you. That's on you, Tate, because you're ruining other people's enjoyment. Right?
No.
This is something that
you need to pretend to be allergic to something.
Everyone's going to order a meal.
This is something that really irritates me, and I've grown to really dislike. Is fucking.
I hate popcorn at cinema.
Oh, it's so annoying.
Hold on.
You're there for for 2 hours. Just eat afterwards or before. Don't rustle around in your fucking.
What was it?
It's when they start. It's when they start as the film starts. That's what makes it worse.
Or the slurping the drinks. No food allowed in the cinema. None.
Killers. Hold on. Killers of the Flower Moon. We've got a 4-hour-long film coming out. You're saying that people shouldn't be able to, have like. I'd say a large amount of snacks. That film's going to need.
There should be an intermission. They should have an intermission.
There should be an intermission.
I'll say that.
Yeah.
You want to eat snacks? Don't go to the cinema and fucking eat your snacks outside. I
always take food.
Leave.
But so what I'll have at the cinema, I'll have crispy M&Ms, but do you know what I do? Just put them in my mouth, wait till they melt, and then I eat them because I'm not being loud. Because then I become a hypocrite if I get pissed. There's nothing worse if you get the best seats at a cinema screen and someone sits on next to you with an entire bag of popcorn. There's nothing worse.
I'm a popcorner, so I really enjoy popcorn at the cinema, and I always.
But do you fucking play with the bag and scrunch it around?
No, I don't play with the bag. I just
exactly.
Eat the popcorn.
But some people do. Some people are so oblivious. They're just sat there fucking having a fight with the bag for some reason. And I'm just sat there saying, why can't you just put your hand in, take out a bit of popcorn and eat it and get on with it? Why do you need to fucking pretend it's like the claw from Toy Story?
Oh, they got to like rummage around to the bottom of the fucking bucket.
I just don't get it.
Like
it does my head in though. It really does my head in. It does my head in, and it generally ruins films. It can honestly.
Wait,
this is making us sound like old men.
Yeah, what snacks are we banning in cinemas? What snacks would be allowed? What kind of?
I've always said if I won the lottery, I'm opening an independent cinema that's banned from popcorn. Simple as. And fucking nachos. You know what? I became a nachos hypocrite in January. I had nachos for the first ever time at the cinema. I went to Cineworld. They said, "Oh, you've got a free thing on your card." I was like, "Great, what is it?" Nachos. I was like, "Oh, okay. I'll give it a go for once because I'm not gonna have to pay for them." And it was the most revolting sauce I've ever had in my life. But then I was just sat there. I'm like, how can people eat shit like this at the cinema? How can people be so comfortable eating stuff so loud?
Do you know what? I'm really bad because I love my sports. I do sports as both of my jobs in life, and yet I used to eat the hot dogs in the cinemas. The grim
Hot dogs are fine because you don't make a
rollover hot
sound.
dogs.
It's bread. It's
They
bread
don't
and a
make a
weird
sound,
fake.
but
No,
at the
no, no,
same
no, no,
time,
no.
like the food itself is disgusting. Like it's absolutely revolting.
Okay, I'm going to
need
take
food,
a
you need
hard
food.
line on this. No food at all, because even hot dogs have the potential. If you get someone that is just the loudest
Chokes on it.
masticator, then
Yeah.
you're like, oh, right. This brings up I'm going to go into full old man mood about this.
No, but it's
No
because
snacks.
it just ruins the experience.
No whooping. No whooping.
No whooping.
No clapping.
No babies. I want to go with no babies.
Hold on,
No
you've
babies.
never been to a standing ovation at the end of a film, Tom. That's what I'm.
Oh no, of course it's
Okay. The only
John Wick 4 had a standing ovation at the press screening.
It's like, right. This is.
It's very American.
I hate to say this, but anyone unless the director's there and you're at like a directors at Yale, Cannes or whatever. If you're in a regular cinema, you'd make yourself look like a dick doing it. Like the one time I had it, and it was really annoying. There was The Dark Knight when I saw that in cinema. Everyone
That's a
clapped.
masterpiece.
They're not going to fucking hear you. It's like people shouting at the TV at football.
Well,
it's like
okay,
no
I'm
one
with you
can
on
hear
that.
you. Fucking shut up.
I'll put a different
Oh.
spin on it, because I think the last time I went into a regular cinema and wasn't watching like a big fanfare film and I had a standing ovation and people clapping was when I was the youngest person in the cinema. Everyone else was like older than me by a long, long way, and I was watching They Shall Not Grow Old. And that was emotional because
that would have been war, though. Wouldn't it? That's a bit. At least
I was surrounded
you know.
by like loads of old people, and they were all clapping, and they were all like, "Yeah."
That's not a normal cinema. That was like shown once, though, wasn't it? That was like a one-off.
That was a one-time screening.
The only time we've ever had it, the first ever time, was Dark Knight Rises, and it was the lunchtime showing at the old Birmingham IMAX at the Millennium Point. And me and my friends were sat there in disbelief that people just started clapping, and we didn't really know what to do because everyone was doing it. So we sort of like joined in like that. And I was like, "Have we become the Americans now?"
Yeah.
And then the really weird one was The Force Awakens. I watched at my local cinema. It's not an IMAX. It was like local cinema. And I went to that midnight screening, and there was an atmosphere. And not during the screening. I mean, there was the buzz around the building before the film started. There were loads of people from school there that no one had ever said they liked Star Wars at school, because even I didn't tell people at school I liked Star Wars, because you just get bullied if you weren't smart enough and stuff like that. And that was like mad. And then just as the crawl happened, someone like cheered, and then because one person had done it, everyone sort of did it as well, and then it suddenly stopped. Like after a couple of seconds,
yeah.
This is
but I don't mind. I don't mind that because that is the hype on a one-off.
Yeah,
but every Star Wars film, I'd be suicidal.
Yeah, but buzz beforehand is fine. If you get into the cinema, if you cheer or whoop or eat loud snacks, you're disrupting other people's viewing experiences. If you want to like yell after the film's finished. Oh, that was fucking excellent. Not during.
But
here's one then. If you're with someone at the cinema, right? If you're with someone at the cinema and you okay, so I watched Titanic last month at the cinema, and 4 teenage girls came in and sat behind us, and I was like, fuck's sake. They kept laughing during the title sequence, and I was like, if they're not fucking quiet, it's a 3-hour and 10-minute film, I need them to be fucking quiet. And they were quiet after the opening, to be fair. And it was an insane audience. There was like you could see women like, yep, they watched it in 97 and they love Leonardo DiCaprio. So the friend I was with, obviously Billy Zane comes on screen, and I know the meme. You know, I have a child. I just burst out laughing, and it wasn't even the moment he did the child thing, but because I knew that the child thing was coming up, and obviously my friend didn't really understand what, you know, people are dying on this ship, and there's this fucking psycho laughing. I was like, oh, and that's a whisper. It's because of this Billy Zane meme that's coming up. So that's a whisper. That's okay. If you're doing a one-off, you know, bit of dialogue in the ears to the person you're with, that's fine. But consistency, and I will say about the Titanic screening, most awkward moment in cinema history. The film finished, the credits started, the song came on. Some weird lady, 3 rows in front, started singing it, and she realized she was out of sync. She started saying the first line about 5 seconds before it happens. She got it wrong, and she embarrassed herself in a room of about 30 people watching Titanic, all because she thought she knew how it would go on and really didn't. And that made that even funnier.
So Tom, I have a question for you. It could be,
Right, okay,
I don't know. I don't know how long we're going to be going on for this for the stream, but I feel like this is a good conclusion question. You're on a date, okay? You're having a great time. Things are going well. You've gone to the cinema. You've watched a film. They stand up and applaud. Are you going on a second date?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, A, absolutely not, and B, why the fuck would you take someone on a first date to the cinema? You can't talk to them. Like, what is that? No, just no. Also, any potential dates out there, we're not going to the cinema first date. Like, just put it out there.
It's a good question.
Not even if it was like a second date or a third date.
Well,
you got to be right down the line for that.
Cinema etiquette would be important if you're planning long term.
Yeah,
that is what I would say.
Yeah.
Cinema etiquette. Feet go on the chairs.
Yeah, it's like don't put your feet on the dashboard. Don't put your feet on the chair in front.
Yeah.
End of. I mean, cinema dates are probably. If I was going to put a number, it'd probably be 5th or 6th, maybe.
I mean, you should just be in a relationship at that point. Let's be honest. Just get over it. But then again, you get in a relationship, take to the cinema, and it goes wrong. You're like, "Fuck's sake, what have I got myself in for?" So that would be to live with those consequences. But yeah,
fair enough.
It's become quite the chat.
Well,
by the way, I just watched
what
Breaking Bad for the first time. Now I'm going to talk about drugs.
Well,
what a brilliant chat!
There we go.
Is there anything else?
There's quite a lot. So actually, so Creed 3 happened, and that's whole cinema debacle.
Oh, that came from Creed 3.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
The film was okay. George, you have a different opinion, but it was fine.
It's fine.
I then watched. I was at work, and I thought I really need something to watch on my lunch break. So I decided to watch The Suicide Squad. The James
Gunn one.
Yeah.
Nice.
Absolutely loved it. So I only watched it like 1 hour a piece because that's all I had. But fantastic. And that led me on to watch Peacemaker, which I absolutely loved as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it. In between that, I watched Barbarian for the first time, which was great. So it's essentially about the bare bones of it. It's a monster or a monster in a house essentially, but it's about the subtlety. It's more about sort of the perception of people that you first meet or that you think are safe and whatever. Really good up until the very end. Justin Long's in it, and he's very good in it. So that's something that I watched as well. Also finished The Last of Us when that finished. I liked it, but and there's a big but. If I'm going to watch something it's hard to explain because most of the things that are video game adaptations or adaptions in general change things from the source material. And when Last of Us was at its best, was complete 180 on the source material. So episode 3 was fantastic because it didn't follow the structure of the game. But then after the first 3 episodes, I think it's fine. Some of the I liked it in general, but I thinking about it more over the last few weeks, I've sort of would I go back and watch it? Probably not. Would I go back and watch the first season? Yeah, probably not. I'll happily wait until the second season comes out. So, but that brings up a whole other topic of video game adaptions.
Yeah,
Right.
you've just done DC and The Last of Us and Gamers Online, and we've just spent 20 minutes about cinemas. So I'm just going to skip getting involved with their fucking mental fan bases as well.
It is like disastrous.
Did you hear about the Zack Snyder con? Sorry, just if anyone hasn't heard of it.
No.
I'm not lying. It's a real thing. It's not April the Fool's. This is a real event happening. And we'll swiftly move on before they all come for us.
So I was going to make a point about video game adaptions, right? The best ones are the ones that don't follow, or that generally have the source material in mind, but don't generally follow the same structure. So the Resident Evil,
the Sonic the Sonic Hedgehog movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But Last of Us has to, though, without getting into it. No, it does, because it's a linear game. If it was something more open, like a Sonic that's been around for decades and there's so many different iterations, I'm with you. But that's basically a TV show within itself.
Well, why don't I just play the game then?
No, you can though. But you got to think how many people that don't play the games that watch that, and that's been the big draw for them. Is a lot of those.
So everyone hated it, absolutely hated it at the time. But I thought it was brilliant, just because of how just so shit it not shit, but how cheesy it was the Resident Evil Netflix TV show, right? If you haven't seen it, it's got Lance Reddick in it, and he is absolutely great. He is fantastic. Few characters that are kind of this is a bit wonky, but overall, what it does so well is it takes the core, and this is what I mean when games to film. It takes the core essence. So Resident Evil and I've watched this like a couple of years ago when it first came out, but it takes the core essence of the game. So it's usually quite campy and quite silly, the Resident Evil games, but it takes that and sort of creates its own narrative with it, and which is why I say The Last of Us is at its best when it takes those core themes from the game and does something new and interesting with them. So I liked the fact that episode 3 ended with the Joel realization that there's stuff in the world worth fighting for, and that brings him on to his arc throughout the season. Actually, question as well on top of that. What's your favorite besides The Last of Us? Best video game adaptation?
I can only really tell you Sonic. I think the rest are probably shit that I've seen. I will say I'm looking forward to Fallout, because that's something that's been in production before Last of Us. Because I imagine that over the next 6 months, every video game IP is now going to get sold to a streaming service because of The Last of Us.
I'm looking forward. I was going to say I'm looking forward to BioShock and what they do with Netflix on BioShock and stuff like that. But realistically, best video game adaptation,
I think it's Last of Us.
It probably is Last of Us. It's the fact that that's the only one that really comes to mind straight away. And Sonic was very good last year.
It's a very low bar, though. I mean, not The Last of Us, but like the bar set is low. It's not like comic book adaptations where you can actually have a really nice discussion until someone says Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Detective Pikachu was good.
Does that count as a video game?
Through. Yeah, it does.
This is it. This is why the bar's so low.
Yeah,
Tayte's struggling.
I mean, here's the thing, and I know that it was brought up in the comments a little bit earlier. It's not a video game adaptation, but the Dungeons and Dragons film apparently is getting very good reviews.
I haven't seen it yet.
Games adaptation.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Dungeons and Dragons is pretty flexible, though, isn't it? Like you all pick your characters, you pick your stories, and
yes. So
I've not watched it, but
it's something on my. It's probably the second cinema trip that I'll take in the year. But from what I've heard, it's very much like even if you haven't seen or haven't played D&D before, you can still it's still good. But if you have that prior reference, prior knowledge, it's like watching a session of a game with your party, or from what I've heard.
Whereas Warcraft, I've not seen Warcraft, but the problem of that is that didn't translate to the general audience. Only the Warcraft players liked it, which is the difference between a film that people will like and people that won't.
Exactly.
And it's a very fine line, I would say, with that sort of stuff as well. I will see it.
This month,
I don't know when.
we got Super Mario Bros. coming out
Wednesday. 92 minutes runtime. Very shorter than I thought it would be.
That's good.
But
it couldn't have been longer than that.
I'll say this: it all looks really good. It sounds almost really good. It's just one voice, the main one. Yeah. So I'm very curious. I will watch it, but I'm not in a rush to watch that. I need to I'm probably after Celebration. I'll probably come in like a triple bill of like Mario, Dungeons and Dragons, and something else.
Yeah, I just gotta continue my love of Chris Pine, because Chris Pine is brilliant.
Well, here's the better question: is he the best Chris in Hollywood?
Yes. Yes, he was in 3 good Star Trek films. 3.
He got spat on by Harry Styles.
2 good Star Trek films, 1 okay Star Trek film. And I've heard the new. I just like him as a personality as well. He seems really good. So other things that I watched, just to finish it off, the first 3 episodes of Ted Lasso, season 3. Still fantastic, still as fantastic as ever. And this morning I finished watching the 3rd season of For All Mankind. And boy,
I've heard good stuff about that. That's the sci-fi one, right?
Yes, so it's if the space race never
continues.
Stopped. Yeah. So the first season of it is, I would say, probably its weakest, but mainly because it hasn't necessarily got a clear identity. Its story structure isn't quite there yet. Second season is my favorite. It's brilliant, and the 3rd season is also brilliant as well. So I've been kind of on a who's it, Kinnaman train the last month. It's fantastic. It's written by created by one of my favorite TV writers in Ronald D. Moore, who had his start in Star Trek: The Next Generation, which is probably why I like it so much. He also was the creator or writer on the reimagined Battlestar Galactica in 2004, which is my all-time favorite sci-fi show. And For All Mankind is great. If you haven't watched it, it's brilliant.
I hadn't heard of it until you just mentioned it. I just wanted to have a look there at the cast and everything. So
yeah, it's fantastic. What it does is it builds to an event finale, season finale. So each finale is about probably an hour and a half. Okay. So it builds to an event that happens. But it's really good. The 3rd season deals with some really big sort of home truths, if that's the word, if that's the phrase. So it's sort of the rise in conspiracy theories, the rise in right wing, and deals with conspiracy theorists, how no one trusts politicians, and things like that. Really good. So that's pretty much what I've watched during the last month.
Oh, good.
Lovely. And I don't have much else to say. For All Mankind, though, I've heard a lot about it over the last year, and I will watch it eventually. It's one of those shows I'll wait till it's finished, and then I'll take it in, because I know that's got a very big following. But aside from that, we've just got a couple of comments. Martin saw Punch at Love Hunters Race. He got a standing ovation. And then we've got Vinny thanking us for the videos, and he thought it was a great discussion. Thank you for that as well. There's Martin about Dungeons and Dragons. I know nothing about the game, but the film is very good, and that's what I'm hearing a lot as well. So I'll try and see it at some point. I'm not in a rush to, but I know a few people are there today actually watching it as well. But I don't have too much more to say. So I guess we'll hand over to people that might be watching at home. Let us know what films you've watched. Maybe even let us know what you want us to bring up. I don't think we'd be having a rant about how not to eat at the cinema. But I would be involved in that, because I've got a very strict list of rules as well. But yeah, just Let us know your thoughts, what you want to see us talk about, because this one obviously will return at the end of April, start of May. We'll have dates nearer the time. It's always the last weekend of the month, or it's the first of the month today, which made it a little bit easier for us to organise. So
Yeah,
please do get involved. And go follow us on social media. Twitter and Instagram at cinema_savvy, Facebook, letterboxd.com/cinema_savvy, and link to Red Bull in the description below. Obviously, at the moment, it's all very Star Wars, buzzing, Celebration, Mandalorian, Bad Batch. Mandalorian discussion is going to be very early this Wednesday. It might be like 10 in the morning because people are making plans to go to places, a certain event. So that will be up at some point on Wednesday. We'll have times confirmed on Tuesday. And we'll be live tomorrow night with another Star Wars Celebration preview video. And we can also plug these. We've got a load of stickers. If anyone's at the convention, at the events, if you come over or if you see us, whatever, we'll give you a sticker. There's a lot of them. We're not going to worry about stock and whatnot. But it's going to be a pretty insane event. Tayte, I know you're missing out. Tom, I know you went in 2016.
Yep.
And it's going to be interesting to see what big announcements Lucasfilm want to do.
Never going back.
Well, yeah, that was quite compared to this one. I mean, we got a lot to talk about tomorrow. The lottery results came out. Some people got into 0 panels. Some people got into 5. There's going to be a lot to talk about tomorrow, and also give some tips on London, places to be, things to avoid, places to avoid, people to avoid, because it's London. Alongside travel issues, all the people that booked hotels that were on the Elizabeth line, and now the Elizabeth line isn't running for a whole weekend. Doesn't affect me, we're on site, but we're here to help people and help preview the event. So do come back tomorrow for that. Aside from that, my brain is frazzled. It's all Star Wars at the moment. I don't think there's anything else to plug. Have I got anything else to plug? I don't think so, Tayte.
No, no, just Star Wars
Tom.
from here on out, and yeah.
Tom, your new Twitter at Tom is Musing.
Yeah, it's always music. So I have decided that it's probably time to end the films and beer sort of thing. It was a thing during lockdown that I continued every week for a couple of years, but I think it's probably run its course, and I haven't done anything with it since I uploaded one video to YouTube. So I haven't deleted it yet, but I've created a new Twitter profile that is essentially it's a mixture of two things. It's going to be my opinions on things, but also a personal Twitter. I want to get rid of my old personal Twitter as well. So that's going to be the place to like follow and stuff. So essentially it.
Definitely. So everyone, please follow Tom on there. And yes, so this video will return. A lot of others will. Thank you both for coming on tonight as always. And we'll see you all on the next one. Take care.
Perfect. Bye.